On this week's TellyCast, I'm meeting with Matt Campion from Spirit Studios, one of the production companies at the cutting edge of the digital-first revolution in the UK. How you doing?
I'm all right.
Good to see you.
Yeah, you too.
I don't think we've ever done a long chat on TellyCast, have we? And we've had chats, we've had short chats around events that we've done, and we had a chat at MIPCOM. And but I don't think we've ever had a sort of deep dive into Spirit Studios.
Not a proper one, no.
No. All right. Well, let's get into it then. And one of the things that I think about Spirit is really interesting, particularly for probably more traditional TV production companies who look at you and they see everything that you're doing, and really, one of the production companies at the cutting edge of the digital first space. But actually, you've been going for about 15 years, which is really surprising, right? Because I know that you don't just do digital projects. You also, you also do linear shows, or you're still working in linear, if you like. Is that a phrase? Working in linear? Don't know, but
yeah, I don't think anyone's working in it, but it's still happening.
Yeah, it's still happening. It's still holding on. So why don't you take us right back to the beginning then of Spirit and where you and Peter met, your partner in the business.
So Peter was my boss at Endemol before it became Endemol Shine, before it became Banijay. And he ran digital media for the business, and had anyone that used to work there will remember the sixth floor at Shepherd's Bush. I think it was 2006. They had a studio show down in Bristol where they used to make Deal or No Deal. We launched. Gala Bingo had an interactive TV channel on Sky, and I was hired in to go and run that. And I was talking about this the other day, because what's interesting about it is this was pre-social media. It was on the cusp of Facebook just taking off. But the channel was live 8 hours every night. And we had a team of about 40 people that would run different shifts. And people could buy tickets through the red button. And then my job as exec would be to oversee the channel and the games and the production model and and the marketing and all that stuff. And then what I would do is the following day after a show, I would go in and I'd get the VHSs of the night before, and I would get the producers to write in the ticket sales against each game at the time, against time code. So I could then go in the next day and I would fill in a spreadsheet that would basically tell me when ticket sales spiked, or when they went up, or when they dipped. And then I would watch back to those time codes and see what we did, and whether we could recreate that, and if there was something that happened then that, and essentially I had this I'm a bit allergic to Excel spreadsheets, but then I did get really obsessed with it. I really like analytics, but I got obsessed with this spreadsheet, and essentially it was me sort of coming up with my own analytics, in the way that we use it all the time now in digital, to see retention, spikes, audience lifts, all those kind of things, engagement. And so I met Peter doing that job. And that was the thing that really I think it was that project that when we left Endemol and set up Spirit, was the idea was, could we create a business that was really future thinking and could create products, programs, social media builds, whatever it was, that really could understand those digital audiences, learn from the results, and build audience, grow audiences. And I kid you not, at the very beginning, 15 years ago, our sort of North Star was that we felt the future would be about not only being able to produce a show, but being able to know how to do all of the digital marketing around it and build the noise around it. And it just took 15 years for the market to really mature, I suppose. We were very early on, but in those early days, I suppose the first 10 years of Spirit, we built a name for ourselves in becoming a digital producer. We would spin off other people's shows. So we do things like we did the spin-off show for Made in Chelsea, and we did Skins, and we did Glee in Los Angeles. And then we helped build social media fan bases for Who Wants to Be a Millionaire and Sony shows and all that kind of stuff. And then a few years in, we because we've been going back to producing content, we got Trigger Happy recommissioned. I don't know if you remember that, probably about 10 years ago now. Yeah. And we did 2 series of that for Channel 4 online, and then we did 2 TV specials. And that's when we were like, oh, actually, the market's taking a lot longer. Maybe we should go back into linear. And then the stand-up sketch show was born, which became a long-running series for ITV, and we did multiple other TV shows here and there. And then obviously lockdown happened. We had a change of ownership, and from our original investor, and then Channel 4 came on board 4 years ago. And Channel 4 really have helped change the whole sort of face of Spirit and the structure of the business, and allowed us to invest in people. And we've got our own studio now, and our own post-production, and we're sort of a bit of a one-stop shop for content production. And that allows us to be able to operate really seamlessly in the current market.
And why did Channel 4 invest in you then? I mean, what was it that that stood out about Spirit that perhaps, if we put ourselves 4 years ago, the start of the decline, or the noticeable start of the decline, started to happen when it comes to linear TV? But what is it that they saw in you that made them want to invest in you?
I think it was the fact that we were really multifaceted, and that we still understood the traditional world. We could operate in the traditional world, but we really were all about the new. And I think it's really difficult to make money in digital. And so if you're an entrepreneur that has to be able to survive off digital revenues, then you clearly know what you're doing. And I think the fact that when they looked at under the bonnet with Spirit, and they could see the size of some of the platforms and the brands that we've built over the years, some of the big brand podcasts that we've done. When I talk about brands, I mean the brands that we've created ourselves. When you look at the Lion Whisperer, when you look at our ability to spin content off into the social world, we're able to make money in that space. And we do it all the time for actual brands as well. And so I think we felt like a grown-up version of a business from the new world.
So, well, let's talk about the business then, and the key pillars of revenue, because one of the reasons I created an event, or one of the reasons that I get, one of the things I get asked most is like, yeah, but how do you make money in digital? Which is why I created an event called that. You must get asked that all the time as well. So can you just talk us through your different pillars of revenue where you generate income?
Yeah, so we do 4 things. We're called Spirit Studios because we run a number of different studios, which are essentially different disciplines in the business. So we make television. We call it originals. I think that's becoming more of the norm now. And originals really is sort of longer form, single or serialized content that can sit on a broadcaster, can sit on a streamer. It can even sit obviously on YouTube. So we make originals. We then, and in that department, we were predominantly known for comedy for a long time, but now we make a lot of documentary. This year, I think we're going to be doing. We've got a big order on true crime this year. We are doing a lot of weekly shows for Channel 5. We're doing drama. We're entering into reality this year, and so the business on the television side is growing, but it's growing in the new world, and I'll come back to that in a minute. We then make podcasts. We produce a number of podcasts, but again, podcasts are shows that are becoming the new television in some ways, and we have a multi-camera studio with a team that is really knowledgeable across digital and television. We have, we've invested in a studio with multiple sets and all that stuff, so that we can produce end-to-end quality visualized podcasts day in, day out. And we also do post-production in-house for that as well. We even do the online. That allows us to be really cost effective, but to also change the business deal with the broadcaster, and I'll come back to that in a minute as well. Then we make branded content. We do a lot of branded content. We work with third-party agencies, and we do a lot in the sports arena, in football and in Formula One. And then the fourth studio is we run a number of YouTube channels. So we've got around about 500 YouTube channels and growing in our multi-channel network. So that's distribution, that's digital distribution. And so for us there, we are working with third-party producers, like exploiting old catalogs. We're working with people that create original content. We obviously have a number of our own channels in that MCN. And we have channel managers that help us grow those channels, get them into monetization, and then obviously it's run like a professional network. And for anyone that doesn't understand what a multi-channel network is on YouTube, it is a professionally run network of YouTube channels. There's not many of them in the world. We are very lucky to be one of the few.
About 50, aren't there?
There's about 50 of us. Yeah. Little Dot, everyone will know who Little Dot are the biggest in the UK, if not the world, and they are a phenomenal business, one of all three's biggest businesses. We hadn't really ever thought about doing that, even though we had the functionality and the capability, because we were a producer. But as we really move now, as the industry rapidly changes, we see ourselves having to be able to do all of it. Really, you've got to be able to do production through to distribution, to be a real one-stop shop of the future. Our ambition really is to be a next generation super indie, and even a destination in the end where we could be the hub that people come to watch Spirit's content. Could we reinvent the sort of the streamer model and be a one-stop hub for everything we do? And so those four studios, they sort of feed into each other in lots of ways. And then obviously now there's the vertical content world that's come along, right? So you could say it's a fifth studio. We're doing micro drama. We're also about to start in reality in that space. And that space really has come along and is really, like, I don't think anyone ever saw that. Saw that come in. And that's sort of like come. I remember once working with a mental health expert on our I Am Whole, our mental health brand, and we were talking about how when people have breakdowns, and it's when they let their problems stack up they imagine like a stack of pancakes, and then all these problems build up, and if you don't keep on top of your problems, if you don't keep that sort of self-care and all that, then eventually you'll have a stack, and then a juggernaut will come from nowhere and knock it over. And that's why people have like these meltdowns. And that's pretty much what I see, like vertical drama. Like the industry's gone, shit, oh no. And then all of a sudden this come along and bang. And then even the streamers are gone, what? And so you're seeing this thing explode, generating billions and billions of dollars, being one of the like wildfire across devices. And then what we're seeing now is like the streamers and the social platforms all rush to try and get in on this market. And then if you look at now at like a Netflix has like really high end, super like films and amazing series. It has podcasts now that we're seeing them really go into the market on. It's got mobile games and verticals come in. And so really like the future is this sort of one-stop entertainment hub, and which is about retaining that customer all day long and giving them the best value for their subscription money. And so no wonder they've rushed to add verticals to it. And so as a business, we do those 4 disciplines or those 5 things, but actually IP360 is our business model. And it has been for a long time, but it really makes more sense now than it's ever made before. And people actually understand what we do, because I think for a long time, people didn't really understand what we were saying these words, and they were like, what? IP what? But IP360 really means that you can create a brand that can serve its purpose as a linear show. It can serve its purpose as sit on a streamer. It can go onto YouTube. It can go as a podcast. It could be a drama. You know, it can do lots of different things all at the same time, because audiences we are in an attention war. Like, it's, you know, the attention economy is all anyone's talking about. And us as users are being pulled in so many different directions that actually, like, what you've got to do is hit them with your brand everywhere they are. And that's what we do. And that's our aim. And so our business model has changed. We still do commissions, obviously, like, you know, like we are here to build revenue. That's how business works. But at the same time, we also want to work with and are working with a number of broadcasters, streamers, content finance talent to build always on 3 to 5 year builds. We're looking long term. Like, how do we create a brand that can turn into a big juggernaut? You know, you look at the Lion Whisperer now, our biggest. It's been going for 12 years. It's huge. It's done billions of views. It's got millions of followers and subscribers. It's its own business. And so for us, what we're doing now is working with lots of partners. We've managed to unlock that world because people now see us as that future production company that really is a safe pair of hands that goes, okay, we know, we've seen you do this for the last 15 years. We know that if we invest our money in you, you're gonna return on it.
So what is it about creating the IP? What, you know, how can you tell what IP to create that's going to live across all those platforms?
Well, what you can't do is just stick your finger in the air, pick an idea and go with it and hope for the best, because there are lots of factors that change the shape of what works all the time. And I'll give you an example of what I mean by that. Is like a couple of years ago, we had some big insight that creators were starting to really work in the podcasting space, and that food was an area that lots of brands wanted to be in and to sponsor and to spend money in, but wasn't very well served. And so there's a gap there in the market, right? And so we launched a couple of projects in that space, and really popular with its audience, really high retention rates, but couldn't get them to break out. And then within that 12 months of that show not really getting to the levels that we wanted it to, you get new insight, which is we've seen now that the podcasting space has become so crowded that only really big names work. So names that are really massive broadcasters that you've spent years listening to their voices, maybe as radio stars or as chat show hosts. They're the ones that have only got the real chance of breaking through. And so what you see there is a maturity in the podcasting thing, where podcasting has become like a TV chat show now, and actually it's become so mainstream that it's sort of really similar to television. And then you see that actually podcasting has suddenly flipped like that within 12 months to being more consumed on YouTube than any other platform. And so now your monetization model's changed. Because previously it was all about listens, and listens would give you a higher CPM, so cost per thousand listens would be more than in video, and so you would operate in a way that would allow you, would mean that your show would do lots of different things in audio in order to make more money. But now you've been hijacked by YouTube, which is a longer, slower burn and less money, right? Until you get to real scale. And so you've got to change all the time. We call it the moving sands of digital, right? And so going back to your question, how do you pick a project? It's really difficult. Yeah. What you've got to do, I think, is look at. Well, let's take a good example, right? So it's been announced we are doing a joint venture project with Hearst. So we work with Hearst a lot. We make a lot of true crime documentaries for them. But we really wanted to launch something in the history space because we know that history is really big. I think big evergreen subjects are where you can build legacy and brand in digital. And so with Hearst, we wanted to work out what could we do in the history space that felt really different. And so we went to Hearst and we said, how do you fancy investing in a brand with us? And, they were really excited by that. And as you've seen, they've launched their YouTube Canvas project as well, yep, which is going to do a suite of their own IP in the same way. And so it was really good timing. But part of the sort of puzzle there is, and I can't wait for people to see what we're going to launch, because I think it's really, really exciting, because it's actually sort of slightly more entertaining, but it's a really big, broad subject, and it came with some real specific insight that we felt would be the key to unlocking the audience to this, because we know there's a huge amount of search online for what we're doing. And so what we've got with them is a project that has a legacy business that knows how to monetize history already. We've got a TV channel, Sky History, that is willing to do a first look on any TV output from the brand. So remember, the brand isn't just digital. The brand is digital plus linear or streaming. So it's originals plus digital. And so from day one, we can launch something that is a weekly show that builds, a consistent audience and has that consistent weekly content that people love, that they can watch and listen to and engage with in different places. But then that brand, as it builds, can also go off and do multiple TV series at the same time. And so, like, because there's that Venn diagram of Sky History, us and Hearst, it means that right from the get-go, there's an inbuilt audience for what we're doing. So I think you have to factor in lots of thinking about when you launch something. Of what I would really discourage people for doing is just going like, oh, I've met someone that really wants to launch a thing and let's give it a go, because you could spend a long time just treading water. And you also need patience. That's the other big thing. I've already said it a few times, 3 to 5 years. Like, don't think long term. A TV series might be a few episodes. These days, it's 4 episodes if you're lucky. But in digital, you've got to think of like 3 to 5 year builds, because what you do in digital, when you understand how it works, is that you change path constantly, and you iterate and you optimize, and you get feedback, and you see what's working and what's not working, and you tweak the system until you get the engine really, really purring.
It compounds over time, doesn't it? In terms of the amount of content, you're building more and more content in that library. Your views never go down, obviously. It's only ever going to go one way once you start creating content. It's
Atomic Habits. Have you ever read Atomic Habits by James Clear? Oh, there's a brilliant, I think it's one of the biggest newsletters in the world, 321. I recommend that to anyone that's watching or listening to this. Go to James Clear's website. He wrote a book called Atomic Habits, which essentially works for anything in life. It could work for fitness, it could work for business, health. If you build a habit into your life, you do the same thing every day. You don't see the difference on a daily basis. It's a bit like going to the gym, isn't it?
Yeah.
I've never done more than 2 days in a row, so I wouldn't know what happens when you compound work in the gym. I know what happens when you compound drinking every day.
Yeah.
But atomic habits are that thing of like, essentially, it's tiny little atoms. Every day you're collecting the atoms, and then after a year or 2 years or however long it takes, that atomic explosion happens. And that's when you get that real lift off. And I would say private parts was, there's a graph on the private parts podcast chart from years ago, where for the first year, I look back at it often. It's the hockey stick effect. It like did nothing for the first 12 months, and then in the January the year afterwards, it suddenly went boom, so steep, and it was like all of a sudden that like you said, compounded interest.
And was that because of, presumably that was because of all the learnings, all the episodes you've been tweaking and tweaking, then maybe one of those caught light, right, and really hit the spot, and then obviously the catalogue starts to hit the spot as well.
I remember I could give you a real world example of how it happened. So when we first started, it used to be Jamie and Francis, and it was two friends.
This is Jamie Lang.
Jamie Lang and Francis Ball, and they ex-Made in Chelsea stars, and they would talk each week about their diary. So they would talk about what they've been doing during that week, and there'd be funny moments, and then they would talk about really funny old things, and then they started realizing that the thing that people liked on social media was when they started talking about their awkward dating, sex, kissing, all that's kind of like funny, the sordid secrets. That's why it was called Private Parts. It was sort of like the stuff that you'd write in a diary, but you wouldn't say out loud. They realised that those are the bits that were really taking off. And then we had a producer, Pete Strauss. Do you remember Pete? Joined us. Pete was also working on our comedy slate. So Pete was who I developed the stand-up sketch show with, and Pete started obsessed with stand-up. We always going to stand-up. So he suggested that we started getting stand-up comedians in as guests. Now, we started with the stand-ups that were on the circuit that we could get that fancied coming along and meeting Jamie and Francis. And bit by bit, the word spread. This is the compounding. Bit by bit, the word spread that this was a really funny podcast to come on. So the names started getting bigger and bigger and bigger, until eventually we were having really big comedian names on the show, and the show became a comedy hit. And then that was the moment where it suddenly took off, because then we were getting big name comedians with big social fan bases that would come on the show, and we could create really funny clips.
And that's interesting. Going back to the learning there, is that looking at digital first, as a lot of people are now looking at, the commissions have dried up, all that advertising revenue's gone into social video. No more commissions. Where do we go? Let's look at digital. Lots of people seem to be doing well in digital. It's not the lifeboat, or it's not the immediate replacement for that loss of income, is it? I think that's really important to say.
I think if you ran into the digital house, you'd be like, yeah, what? Someone throw me some armbands. It's what I said earlier on. You got to kind of, it's an entrepreneurial play.
Yeah.
And you've got to understand that it's one of those things that takes time. If you are entrepreneurial and you understand about building business, then you have a 1 year, a 3 year, a 5 year, a 10-year strategy that changes all the time. You re-update your strategy, but you have these missions and these goals, and you have a North Star. Digital's the same thing. And so don't create something, put it out and expect it to catch on fire. I mean, don't get me wrong. We've launched things that have, but they're an anomaly, and they're difficult. You know, that's sort of like that's like creating a number one hit. You know, I do. It's a bit like a record business. Think of the record business, right? Look at how many recording artists don't make it, and then how many do. That's digital.
Yeah.
And so it's a mindset change. It's also a mindset change in the money as well. Commissioning, the traditional world is B to B. One business pays another. The digital world is B to C. It's direct to consumer. It's business to consumer. It's you have to get your heads around how
Lots of little pockets of money. You know, thousands of little pockets of money rather than one big paycheck, isn't it? And it's and you know the key to this is, as you say, direct to consumer. It's about becoming the broadcaster yourself.
You own it. But that's the thing. You
Building
own
that
it.
community and creating a community around the content that you're creating.
Look at Goalhanger. I mean, what an incredible story.
Yeah.
Goalhanger, brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. I'm so pleased for them. Like, they have built something that has come through pure passion. You know, The Rest is History, I think, was one of their first. It's come through pure passion of, you know, and obviously, like, they've got Gary, and The Rest is Football, and like that's, you know, it really does help to have that halo effect. But they've built something that they really know their niches, don't they? They know their niches so well, and they're really good at finding their talent that are going to front their shows. And then, I mean, they don't need anyone else. Because now what they're doing is what the future is what we're doing. You own your own IP, and then you sell it to the broadcasters or the streamers.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's their deal with Netflix? 10 million or something.
Yeah, and there's licensing, it's live events. They're doing a big show on the South Bank, aren't they? I think later on this year, with a number of their formats. It's very, very clever play. So would you say then, as you said, it's a longer term play. It's a more entrepreneurial play.
Yeah.
Do you think there is a risk of some businesses jumping feet first into this without really without that? You can spend a lot of money quite quickly, can't you, in digital?
We're already seeing it.
Yeah.
We're already seeing it, and it's you've got to find that's my well, that worries me. You're gonna see a lot of money wasted, and a lot of unfortunate, what's the word? Like, I think it's going to put people off, because if they don't get everyone's used to instant success. You get a commission, it's gratification, you've done it.
Yeah.
It's an instant win, and it's big money. Well, not anymore, but you know, at one point it was, unless you're high-end TV. And so, like, if you go 2 feet first into digital, and you run at it, and you hire a load of people to do it, you're going to waste money real quick. What you've got to do is find a way of investing in it, so it feels like, to begin with, like a business passion project. I think that's probably, once you're established, you know what you're doing, then great, like all the big investment, because you know what you're doing, right? But even now, Spirit, after 15 years, we can raise significant investment to build digital projects because we're a safe pair of hands. But we wouldn't ever spend the money in a stupid way. We still go lean and mean and build things, a minimal viable product. You've heard that a million times, because the things fail and things don't catch fire, and finding that real hit isn't the easiest thing to do. It's the record label model. You know, like, you turn up the investment once you know you've seen real signs, but don't go into this investing in it in a big way. Try and find a way of doing it cheaply and learning and seeing how, you know, like, what I love the most about the business at the moment, And the business has been through so many different iterations over the years. But what I love about the business at the moment is that everyone in the office is so excited about growth. I keep saying to him, it's funny how like linear's managing decline, digital's managing growth, and every day on the group chats across all the different projects, you can see people feeding in graphs and new milestones being hit, and the new figures go up on the board, and we've just hit monetization, or it's exciting. It's watching something. It's watching your baby grow,
Yeah.
and it's seeing that success, and then that kind of. I always had right at the very, very beginning this sort of dream that the white coats would meet with the creatives once a week, and now it happens. I mean, they don't wear white coats.
So that's basically like the distribution team who's overseeing the thumbnails and the titles and the SEO and the discoverability and the launch process and all of that coming together and feeding back to the creative teams to say, you know what we did on that last episode. It's interesting. It's back to, you said the red button when you were back at Endemol. You're saying a bit that actually worked. It's kind of the same, right?
It's exactly the same. That was the bit where I'd spent years in live TV, being a studio director, and then when I took that job at Endemol, that was the first time that I'd started seeing results. Audience interaction and audience feedback on content, because that doesn't really exist it didn't exist before social media. And so so now the team, I mean I say they meet weekly, they talk all the time, throughout the day. They're talking. In fact, just before I came here today, we were chatting about talking about one of the shows that we make for Channel 5, Catching Up with the Royals, about how there's one bit that's become really, really big with the audience, and we're getting tons of emails and comments, and interaction comes from all over the place, the engagement. And so this week we've got a recording on Wednesday, and they're gonna double down on part one, on doing more of that particular thing. And so because they know that when they clip that out, it works and it builds, and they know that they're getting subscribers off the back of it. And so that's the kind of thing that you can't do in television, which, don't get me wrong, I love making telly. It's brilliant being able to work on a really big project and have that kind of level of budget. But the one thing you don't get in telly is that instant feedback, and you can't change anything instantly. Where now, interestingly, the vertical content world, right? Those apps have AI behind them, and so if one of the microdrama films isn't performing well or drops off at a certain episode point, they can re-edit and re-upload and try and keep hook the audience for longer. Yeah.
So the idea of picture lock doesn't exist in the digital world, which is what's really freeing, isn't it? And it's and it's just listening to what the audience says and and creating content for them that that they're commenting on and they're feeding back on. And there's so much to keep up with. Algorithms you have to keep up with. I don't know if you've seen, but Instagram now have changed their algorithms from highly edited clips, we've all sort of seen. A lot of our trailers for our pods are sort of really dynamic and have lots of graphics and music, and they're hooky, but they are deprioritizing those edits, and they're moving more towards selfie video, people being authentic and telling you what's coming up on this week's show, and actually talking to you like a human. Yeah, because of the rise of AI. Yeah. But and so you've got to keep on top of that all the time, and that changes. Yeah. So finally, then, before we go into story of the week, what does the next phase of Spirit Studios look like then? You've talked about you're in branded content, you're in podcasts, you're in traditional TV, you're in 360, creating those brands right across for every platform. You're in microdrama, other vertical video projects. What's next then? What really interested me is what you said about the super indie and building a super indie of the future in the sort of digital space. I mean, is that the future? Is that what you're absolutely focused on? And what
Yeah,
does that look like?
yeah. That is, I think that is our sort of definitely our North Star. Is I think what you'll see us do over the next few years is build out multiple brands that you see everywhere, and lots of them. Some will work, some won't work, but really doubling down on that. We are building more and more into scripted, because I do think that Spirit has a part to play in high end TV. I kind of feel like what we're doing is creating IP that we can scale to global success. That doesn't always have to be like premium, high end premium content at the scale version of it. That could be just a podcast that the world loves. But as we move more into scripted, with our production capabilities, I think we've got a real opportunity there, because it's moving into the formats that we know that really entertain people, and it's the lean back and the lean forwards. And so, if our future, I would say that in the next 3 to 5 years, you will see us build more brands. You will see us move into a bigger studio environment that has VR capability and allows us to do more as a business in a self-contained studio environment. And then maybe there'll be some rolling up of some other businesses to be able to facilitate doing more of that and to own more of that market. But could the future, I don't know, this is really future gazing, but like, would we become whatever the version of the streamer is in the first place in the future, whether that's an app or whatever it is, whatever form that takes? Could there be a thing where Spirit starts making sense of a certain particular genre or a certain type of entertainment or something, and that literally has all those different versions that we just talked about within that space? I think that's what's really exciting. Like, we're working on some really, really exciting projects at the moment that do drama, true story, podcasting, lots of digital social spin-off, all under one brand from a launch. That's one of the big projects we're working on at the moment. And like, that just feels super exciting to me. And that feels like the future, where you see this content everywhere. Everything, everywhere, all of the time.
So finally, we're going to go into Story of the Week, which is something obviously we do every week on this show, which is essentially a TV or a content industry story that's caught your eye in the past 7 days, Matt. So what's your story of the week?
Well, it's got to be Saturday Night Live UK, because I think that's the thing that everyone's talking about. And I get the feeling we're going to disagree on this.
Well, we might.
So
you love it, don't you?
Well, no. What I'm going to say is that I am really impressed with the launch. I'm going to be honest. I thought the trailers and the promos weren't brilliant, and I didn't think. And in fact, I think it was more my wife, who's like not in the industry, says, I don't know what's that shit. I don't know what that is, what it means or what it's about. And I think that makes a lot of sense. It's just a bunch of comedians that running down the street on a Saturday night out.
There was maybe the assumption that people knew about what the SNL brand was, right?
Yeah,
Which many people do, but I think lots of people don't as well.
I doubt that the younger. I doubt a lot of people under 30 do. Because it feels like it's something that we only know about it in the UK through social media, really, because the sketches go viral. And we know there's a legacy brand, and we might have seen it here and there, clips here and there, but it's not something that's on here, is it, that you can watch all of the time? And so, anyway, I had a vested interest because it's got some ex-stand-up sketch show talent in it, in different roles. On screen and behind the scenes, and so I'm really pleased for them that they're getting a really big break and that there's a lot of eyes on this project. I thought Tina Fey was an interesting I mean, it's kind of like passing the baton, like that. That's what I felt like that. Lorne Michaels executing it felt you can feel the heritage on it. So it felt like it had a lot of America's backing and blessing. And then I was like, oh man, because like the first time I saw it, it's like great bunch of talent, but quite young. Because the American talent are like all different ages, right? I was like, it's quite a young talent base. Am I gonna be able to take them seriously doing the political satire and all that? But you know what? Like Sunday morning, my socials were full of all the sketches, and when I looked at the SNL Instagram account first thing in the morning, it was under 10k followers. I don't know. The last time I looked, it was 28 yesterday. Like it was rapidly growing. And then I read last night that Donald Trump had shared the Keir Starmer sketch, and then you kind of go like, actually, there's a lot riding on this. But to pull off a live sketch show for 75 minutes on a weekly basis is no mean feat. That's really anyone that has never worked in live. I mean, it's really hard to do that.
Yeah, but they've got no shortage of budget, have they? Let's face it. I mean, this is like,
they haven't, but
huge broadcaster, and this is for them a premium product. I mean, you imagine the politics getting this together, you know. First of all, it's like what's funny to Americans and what's funny to Brits, right? That's one thing that separates us is common language and sense of humour in most cases. But I don't know. I mean, I think it got viewing figures were about 250,000, I think, which is pretty good. It beat Channel 4, which you would imagine with the amount of, you know, a new launch and the amount of, you know, hype around the show. I don't know. I mean, for me, it's like it'd be really interesting to see what that drop off is next week.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't disagree with what you're saying, but those are the reasons why everyone thinks it would fail. Because it's too big. It feels ridiculous.
Yeah,
it feels like the most ridiculous commission you've heard of in this state of the industry.
Well, it begs the question, why? Well,
I think Sky are going through some big changes, aren't they? They're owned by the company that makes SNL in America, so there's a legacy thing there. There's a globalization of content. There's social media at play. I keep banging on about it. IP360. I think SNL is one of the original IP360 brands. Like, they've got an opportunity. Yes, it's expensive, but they've got an opportunity to build something here that's never been done before in the UK, because we've seen so many of these late shows try and fail. Do you remember that run years ago that ITV did on a weekly night, and they had each week they had a different host take on 5 nights?
Yeah.
For some reason, we all sort of want to like the Late Show in the UK. Like, we all watch clips of all the late shows from America and all that stuff, but they just don't seem to land because maybe there's not enough money to be able to do it justice, or there's not enough guests. Maybe America's just a much bigger place, right? So like here, you'd be recycling things all the time, guests, stories, all that kind of stuff. Where in America, it can run and run and run. But Saturday Night Live, I think, do you know what it is? I think it's just, I just expected to see the opposite in terms of the results. And what I saw was people going, oh my God, that was amazing. Well done. Lots of teething problems. Like, you could tell there was even Tina Fey, I felt, was a bit nervous at the beginning, like her monologue. You know, it's a new thing. The pressure of that is really big. But as you said, they've spent a lot of money. There's a really brilliant writing team on it, really brilliant production team, really great set, and the live team. Where's the training ground for live these days? And yet they executed it brilliantly. I mean, there were some really good moments in it. Whether or not every sketch worked or not, it's sort of irrelevant for me. It's kind of like, that's a good start. It's a really good start.
And it's now been extended to, I think, 8 episodes, hasn't it, from 6? So
yeah. And Peacock's bought it, so distribution's working already.
Yeah.
And that will have come already off people seeing rehearsal tapes and all that stuff, you know. And so, like, I don't know. As you said, there's a lot of money there to fill in terms of recoupment.
Yeah.
But it does put Sky on the map. And Sky now are doing these. Have you noticed Sky is starting to do these bundles with Netflix and everything? I mean, there's a lot. There's a lot more to play. They're sort of. There's been the talks about them and ITV. There's a lot to play for. Like, if you're going to compete at the top, go big or go home.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's a good point to end on then, Matt. Thank you for coming on TellyCast. It's been great having a chat in your studio, which is great, and your great production team who always look after us. So, thank you for that. And what's next? What's the next out of the gate for you then? Just as what's the next new project that we're going to see on socials or on a podcast or vertical, or what's the next thing to look out for from Spirit?
Sally Lindsay's A Night In with Sally Lindsay starts next week, Channel 5.
Right.
Launches next Wednesday.
All right, fantastic. We'll take a look at that. So Matt, thanks again, and all the best with Spirit.